Welcome into Rounding the Bases Live. Hi, everybody. Happy Tuesday afternoon, midday here. If you're watching later and streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and we'll have it posted on LinkedIn. I appreciate you watching. We've got another great show coming up today. Certainly want to thank a couple of my sponsors. And I would also like to give a little bit of a shout out because we talk all the time about Casey Cattle Company, and just check them out on social media. Actually, if you check them out on social media, you can also go to caseycattlecompany.com. But if you check them out on social media, go to their Instagram, for instance, today, and you will see, I'm looking at it right now on my phone, the birth of Rowan Patrick Montgomery on April 3rd, 6 pounds, 8 ounces. So congratulations to the Montgomerys. And Patrick Montgomery is the founder of Casey Cattle Company and a big supporter of what I am doing here on Rounding the Bases Live. So congratulations to the Montgomerys, adding a new member to the Casey Cattle Company family. And of course, I want to remind everyone that this show is brought to you by Enterprise Bank and Trust. Could not do this without the support of Enterprise Bank and Trust. They are extremely busy right now. And I'll just let everyone know that on Friday, we will have a panel discussion right here at this time on this show about SBA and all those loans. So many of those bankers are nonstop fulfilling these orders and applications right now. And so we're going to get some expert advice from a lawyer, Brian Houston, and also from a member of the staff over at Enterprise Bank and Trust, Justin Mahoney. So I'm really looking forward to that. But as far as today on Rounding the Bases Live, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust, we welcome in right now to the show my friend and the founder of Lily and James Creative, Erin Fulk, Miss LinkedIn. That's my title for you, among many other things. Erin, thanks for joining the show. I feel like you're doing a ton of these in some form or another because there's a lot going on right now. I feel like almost every day, every couple of days, if I talk to you, the world has changed. That's where we're living right now. How about the marketing world for you and taking care of clients?
Well, it's kind of funny because now I feel like I've spent the past decade trying to convince everybody that I've met that digital marketing is really important. And now everybody telling me how important digital marketing is. So it's kind of like a whirlwind for me. It's like opposite conversations.
Of course, you already knew that, though, but That's really interesting to me. I mean, there are a bunch of reasons why I wanted to have you on, and there are certain guests, like yesterday, Tyler Enders, last week, Andy Rieger, where they are doing things in the community that are very obvious and extremely needed, masks, through Made in Casey and Sandlot Goods, of course, hand sanitizer, and I could see it, you understand the social media aspect of this. You could see it in the numbers, the amount of people that are watching, the interest, I think, in just good, positive stories right now, because there's so much negative out there and there's so many scary things going on. But you have sort of always, to me, lived in that world of just helping people. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on. Well before this pandemic came, your mindset, you've taught me this too, your mindset, I feel like, has always been, how can I help you? So how has that changed right now?
Yeah. So I think that I kind of built the business around that, right? Very early on, I heard somebody say adding value, if you add value, you will get that value in return, right? And so I didn't know, there was a lot of times that I was a single mom forever before I started my business. And so I've never had a lot of monetary to be able to add. So I always said, well, what else can I do? So we kind of just built the business on that platform. So it's really exciting to see, because a lot of people that I worship is maybe a really strong word, but like a lot of entrepreneurs that I've been watching, that I've been like, oh, I want to be like them. Watching them kind of have that same value system has made me even more become fans of them. To your point, the Made in Casey guys and Andy Rieger and Matt Basinger, some of those guys that are doing some really cool things. So
I think, go on. I think from my end, the point is that there are ways to add value to everyone. It doesn't always have to involve money or goods. Everyone has the ability, and I'll let you fill in the blanks here because I cut you off, but everyone has the ability to help others.
Right. Right. So, right now, even in small business, it's scary to add even monetary. Nobody really knows where their monetary is going to be. I've been very lucky. We've got to keep all of our employees, but obviously I'm keeping cash very close to us right now to make sure I can keep my employees as long as possible. So even for us, we had Andrew Miller he owns like Guy's Chips and Spanish Garden Salsa. He reached out and he said, hey, we have this great idea to help support the hospitality industry, but we just need to get a really quick website up about it. That is something we can absolutely do. My web developers are on salary anyways, and we have the time. So I was like, we want in, right? So there's always something. I saw a great meme type of thing. Actually, it was like right before this all started. I think it was like January, and I shared it on my LinkedIn, and it ended up getting close to 80,000 views. And essentially what it was is ways to support small business without money. And it was sharing their post, liking their post, referring them, tagging them when people ask for their services, commenting, sending a message of support, like all these things, especially in the social media email world that we can do while we're at our homes that actually mean a lot to people right now.
I'm going to mess around with this. I mean, we're learning on the fly, as we go, but you mentioned what you were talking about. So I think that we could see this here right now. Yeah. And so that's what you guys did, right?
Yeah. So we just helped build this site, but essentially Andrew Miller hooked up with KH. They've got a lot of initials. If you go up, I can see those, but he hooked up with this group. And what they're doing is they're selling shirts that say local support local. And then the money from the shirts is going back to support hospitality workers that are out of business right now. So bartenders, waitresses and waiters, people in hotels. It's a pretty awesome program.
I'm curious, you unveiled something new right as this was going on, which yes. feels like maybe 3 months ago, but I think it was right. like two weeks ago, maybe.
It was the 19th, but it feels like a really long time ago. Yeah.
Right. I mean, everybody can relate to that. When you say like 2 days ago feels like a week ago, 2 weeks ago. Yeah, everyone can relate to that right now. But this was not your pivot in the midst of what was going on. This happened to have been in the works for a long time. Mm-hmm. The pivot, I think, just happened to come at the right time, and kudos to you for pushing forward, because I think a lot of people right now, Aaron, are, well, I better hold off on that, and because everybody has stuff flying in every direction right now. Right. But tell me about that new endeavor and how that maybe is helping some of your clients or prospective clients.
Right. So, okay. Essentially, let me tell you what I've learned through this is I'm really good when my back's against the wall. Like that's what I'm at my best. So, what I've also learned is that not everybody's like that. And so if you can figure out how to get some of that out of you right now, you will probably make some really big moves. So what we had planned is we essentially have been an agency and been doing the agency thing for about 4 years here. And what I kept hearing is, we wish we could just order graphics. We wish we could just order video when we went to, especially for small businesses where they don't have the huge budgets to bring on a whole agency. So we kind of shifted our agency over to a SaaS model where people can go onto our website, they get credits, and then they can use their credits for whatever deliverables they wanted. Really being able to do that from wherever you are. So we had this amazing plan, right, where we were going to showcase it at the Small Business Showcase in Kansas City for the chamber. We were up for Small Business of the Year. And then we were so blessed and so lucky that we got invited to the biggest digital marketing conference in the United States. It was going to happen March 31st. They offered to let us have a booth, which, by the way, is like just insane that they even offered that. That's where we were going to roll it out nationally. And then everything shut down the week before. And so I sat down with my team. It was our last in-person meeting. And I said, we're still going to move forward, but we've got to figure out how to move forward on this. And essentially we just rolled out a whole video campaign. We made it happen really quick. My entire team was amazing. They were all hands on deck. The Business Journal, we reached out to the Business Journal and they said, we want to do a story on it. And we just started going, to your point, what relationships have we made that we can help move this forward? Because honestly, more than ever, people need this service because they're going to be home. At that point, we thought we were going to be home in 2 weeks, right? For 2 weeks. We didn't know we'd be home for, I'm hoping by June 1st we'll be back, but we didn't know how long. But this essentially was a service that allowed people to all of a sudden now stop, think about your marketing because of what we're in. And now there's a service out there that people can help it kind of worked out in our favor that we were shifting to something that would be helpful. That was never obviously the plan.
All right. So I have a confession to make right now. Now that this is going to like turn into just a normal Aaron and Joel conversation. Oh, by the way, people are watching. But having been in live television for 25 years, I have learned that sometimes stuff happens.
Right.
So as you're in the middle of talking on that last answer, I looked up and I saw no one. It shows that no one is watching right now. And, you know, with Aaron Fulk's presence on LinkedIn, people are wanting to watch. Not on LinkedIn Live. We'll get into that in a moment, but on Facebook and YouTube. And so here's what I realized. About 8 minutes in, I had not set this up to go live. It was just recording. So we could start all over, but we're not going to. We're not going to, though. It is live now. So what I want to do is just restart a little bit of intro. We don't need to go through everything. Bottom line is, if you're this is what happens sometimes in live TV. I can't tell you over the years the handful of times where we're live and some kind of transmission dies, and it's like we've been talking for 10 minutes and nobody just saw us. The beauty of this is the full link will be up on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn later. So that's good. So you'll hear everything that Aaron said. But when I started the show, I said, welcome in to Rounding the Bases Live, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust. There's no stopping you. There's no stopping us right now either. And I thanked Casey Cattle Company for their sponsorship. You can go to CaseyCattleCompany.com and order Wagyu beef from them. And congratulations to the Montgomerys on the birth of their son, Rowan Patrick Montgomery, on April 3rd. And then we introduced Aaron Fulk, the founder of Lily and James. So this is interesting. And this is a little bit, and one of the reasons why I wanted to just keep going and up, well, let's just start it again at 12:08. Was this is kind of the world we're living in right now. We're learning as we go. Stop trying to be perfect. I mean, of course, we all want to be. And one of the things that I think you saw last week, I had on Father Justin Matthews and from Reconciliation Services. And so he saw StreamYard and he wanted to use it. And then he sent me a message on Friday and he said, you know, I've noticed that when you set this up, you create a room like we have right here. When you set this up, it starts to put it out on the Facebook and YouTube, even if you're not telling it to go live yet. So what I learned was if you don't tell it to go live and just have it as a record only, it won't put it out there before it's ready. But then you got to remember to go live.
Right.
That's what I forgot. Anyway,
I love StreamYard.
It's been great. But I'll keep learning as I go. And I have a feeling that everyone is going to want to watch anyway. But I do want to kind of circle back on one thing for everyone that is watching and just revisit one topic because you serve so many clients at Lily and James. You do so many different things for those clients. And I'll pop up the website again so people know how to get a hold of you. But you have always had that giving mentality. And you were on my podcast, a year and a half ago or something like that. Yeah. You built this from nothing. And to me, what I learned from you was going back to what was the social media that you were dealing with like 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago? MySpace. That's right. I never had one of those. But you were adding value. But you were adding value before everyone was doing the social media thing. So how much has that served you, even in the middle of this pandemic, of just helping others?
Right. So I think that no matter what, when you add value to people reciprocate, especially in times of need. I have a wonderful story for this, though. One of the very first things we did, so a month into owning my business, maybe a couple months in.
Which was what, like 2016?
2016. We opened at the end of June, 2016. So this would have been right there, like in the fall, when you're getting into the fall golf tournaments. Mm-hmm. There was a nonprofit. Well, no, that's not true. There was I guess they are a nonprofit. It was the Women Lawyer Golf Tournament. And they came and I knew the girl in charge of it. And she's like, do you want to donate anything? And we didn't have much to donate. So I was like, well, let's do 6 months free social media. And in my mind, I thought, well, a lawyer will win this. We'll do so good the first 6 months. The second 6 months, they'll want to be a client, right? That's how I kind of thought it would go in my mind. And then a lawyer won it because that's who all was there. But then they donated to a nonprofit. And I kind of knew going in, the nonprofit probably wouldn't be able to afford us the second 6 months, but I decided to take a very stern, like, they still want it, and we're going to do our very, very best on this. And we did, and we developed a great relationship, but at the end of the 6 months, they couldn't afford it anymore. And actually this morning, they called me last week to see if they could chat with me, and I had no idea why. And then they had to cancel the call. And then yesterday because something had come up, then yesterday she reached back out and she's like, hey, can you get on a call tomorrow at 9 a.m.? And I said, absolutely. And this morning she's like, Erin, what we've realized during this is our website is terrible. The board has approved a new website. Can we please hire you guys to do a new website? And I was like, yes. And so this was 2016. Obviously, we've kept a good relationship with them. Obviously, I didn't know what that would happen. But because we went all in on having doing the best, even though we didn't think it would ever be monetary, 3-4 years down the road, it turned monetary. That was just a really good example, I think, for me. But essentially, I think if you add value to people, regardless, it comes back. Whether it's the universe, I know a lot of people say that, whether it's karma, whatever it is, if you're a good person, it comes back to you.
Yeah, I've always wondered, about the karma thing. I mean, everybody believes in different things. It's sort of like the whole, when you were single, when I was single, and when you're chasing the guy, you're chasing the girl. It seems like it never happens, but when you're not looking, or when you're looking for a job and you're looking harder, you're looking for that piece of business, you're looking for that contract. But then when you back off and you just kind of go about things the right way, being a good person, being authentic, serving others. So I don't look at it like tit for tat, quid pro quo. Hey, if I do this for you, you'll do this for me. So if you want to call it karma, I just think that when you are helping others, it's human nature to want to help back. And by the way, it may not come back in the same form. It may not come back in the form you expect it to. It may just come in a recommendation. They may not be able to give you business right now. But hey, you know what? I was working with Erin Fulk and her crew over at Lily and James. They are amazing. I can't recommend them enough. That type of thing. Oh, you're looking for a speaker. You're looking for this. You're looking for that. What I found a couple of weeks ago was everyone was in a oh crap mode. What do we do now? And then, so it wasn't really a time to sell. I know there are people that say you should always be selling. Then last week to me was sort of we got to get everybody. I think it was last week. We got to get everybody moved into their homes. We've got to pivot and adjust. And I think now everybody's back to operating, even though it looks differently. They're back to business. Right. And by the way, that includes people like me that are out of work right now. It's like, I don't want to sit on the couch and mope all day. I have my once a week podcast, and then suddenly it was like, well, what else can I do? I mean, I'm not going to wait by the phone. I'm also not going to sit there and say, please, 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 can somebody hire me for a virtual speech? It just doesn't work that way. So how can I help? I think that's the most important question right now.
Right. Well, and I think that that's where having those relationships becomes important too, right? You and I jumped on a call with a few of our other friends, and there were a couple people on that call that really could not see the light. And then there were a couple people that were like, what pandemic? Let's figure it out, right? And I think just like the balance of even our relationship that week, I was very positive. And then the next week I was like, okay, I need positivity, right? And that's where those relationships come in a lot too during this.
It's hard. I mean, look, at the end of the day, everyone's trying to put food on the table, and helping others while you're trying to do that sometimes can mean not helping yourself. You still have, and I've told you this too, like first and foremost, you have to look out for yourself. I know that, Josh Levin had this unbelievable message that went out on social media from Empowered Electric. And it's not the only message. I mean, he's like, everything that he puts out is unbelievable. But it was just that good reminder. I've shared that with other people. Like, you have to keep your eyes forward. You got to keep pushing. That doesn't mean, by the way, that you're going to be immune from down moments or rough moments. And look, I think about someone like you. I mean, in my case, my company is me. In your case, you have employees that are so desperately hoping that you can keep those doors open and keep paying them. And you want to, as a good boss, you want to be able to take care of them. But, oh, by the way, you've got to take care of your husband and your kids, who, by the way, make phenomenal music videos.
It's called art class these days.
Hey, I want to encourage everybody to go to Erin's LinkedIn and check out their family video starring her son, Devin. Well, you were all in it, but he was the lead role. How'd that come about?
Well, so that really is what they're doing during art class. And because school's only giving them like an hour and a half worth of school. And I'm like, I need them to be busier. I'm busy. So next week, Lily will be the star of the video. They did a negotiation on that. So yeah. So I think it's going to be a continual thing in our life. To your point about Josh Levin, he's also been one of my phone calls. He's a good friend of mine, and he's been one of my calls. And that's a relationship that's happened. We've been friends for a long time. I would say in the past 3 weeks, our friendship has grown so much just because we've been shoulders for each other. Because I think the relationship piece is so important right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Josh is my guest this week on the Rounding the Bases audio podcast. So you can find that on Spotify and Apple and anywhere you find your podcasts. Aaron's been on in the past. Josh, brought the energy. I think I'm going to bring Josh on. I messaged him this morning on this show too, just as that pick me up. I mean, okay, he owns, he's an electrician. He owns a company, but it's so much more than that. I don't mean to, minimize that, but his positivity will affect everybody. So a couple of things I want to do. We've got some time, but one, I want to invite anybody to ask Aaron any questions right now. So if you send in questions as you're watching this live, we'll try to get to whatever. If anybody has any, if not, that's fine too. We did talk, as I suddenly realized that I needed to take this live. We were talking about your change in services. So I assume you're still doing everything you were doing before. So maybe let's talk a little bit about kind of what that looked like before, and then how this new element, sort of this, I don't know if I'm calling it right, like this a la carte, how that has changed and what you're hearing from people.
Right. So the biggest thing was that a lot of times you hear about disrupting industries. And I started doing a lot of research as clients would come on and then they would leave, but they would keep ordering stuff from us. And I was like, why don't you want to be a monthly client anymore? And it was one, we had outpriced ourselves out of small business, which actually is really what I love working with. And then two, a lot of times, like if you go work with a big agency that has like $1 million budget, they have all this money built in for you to get to know them. And it's just very hard to get to know business completely without that extra budget, which a lot of businesses don't have. And so I started doing a lot of research. We brought Ezzy Redwood on. He helped me do all of these past client surveys, current client surveys. And so what we decided to do is we decided to kind of disrupt the agency world has not been changed since 1862 or something, right? Essentially, now we're doing digital, but it's the same thing. You bring on the client, you say you know everything about them, you become their agency of record, and then you do the strategy, even though you're not in the business all day long, and hope it works, right? And you do there's a little more than hoping, but it's not a good model for small business. It's great if somebody has that budget. So we're like, we have to change it. We want to work. Ezzy and I are both passionate about small business profits, and we cut them completely out. We were starting at $3,000 a month, which I loved as a business owner, but it wasn't making me happy all the time because I couldn't always work with the people. I was saying no so much more than I could say yes. And so essentially we started this SaaS model where you can go online, get credits, and get what you want, get the deliverables. And it makes it a lot easier. You get a really quick turnaround. Within 1 week, you can have anything you need. And it allows for small businesses to afford video, to afford graphics, to afford social plans and kind of stuff like that.
So what are some of those deliverables, and what are you finding clients are gravitating towards most, or is it kind of across the board?
Well, actually, so one of the big things is that, so you use Canva online, right? And real graphic designers hate Canva because you can't do as much. You can tell who.
Yeah, and people that have no idea how to graphic design,
they love Canva, right? Because it's an easy tool. And so I think agencies fight against Canva all the time. And I was like, probably our most popular thing right now has been our graphic designer is actually making templates based off a business's brand, colors, all of that in their Canva account, so that the business owners now can go in there and update them themselves and do their own social media. So things like that, it's just tools to be able to help people. A lot of people can record their podcast, but they can't figure out the sound and how to make it go live and stuff. So they send in their recording, and then my sound team does all of that. So those are probably our two most popular things right now while we're in this pandemic.
No, that's really, and that'll continue after too, right? Yeah. I mean, those are really I would guess, easy deliverables on your end.
Yep.
But for someone that's never done it before, it's scary. And people don't necessarily have the time to be looking through manuals or YouTube tutorials, or they may not be wired to go look through. I mean, look, this is a generational thing too. The younger generation just looks right on YouTube and learns how to do something if they're so inclined. The older generation probably is not. I think I'm somewhere in between, which is not to say I'm not old, but I tend to like to look that stuff up and figure it out. Or a lot of times I say, oh my gosh, somebody help me, because I don't know. I've never done that kind of stuff before. I mean, I know how to post something on LinkedIn, and then usually I hear from Aaron who says, next time you need to do blah, blah, blah. And that's how I learn. Which leads me to LinkedIn. I know I've been joking with you, but the LinkedIn Live process, I applied for it about a month ago, and I figured, and you figured, I'd have it a day later. And now I'm starting to think that maybe they don't like my broadcast credentials, and
I didn't think
I'm not very talented.
Later. I thought you'd have it a week to 2 weeks later. Everyone in the world applied that week that you applied. I've done the research. So I do. You're not denied yet. I checked it this morning.
I don't even know how to check it.
I checked it for you. You're still in pending. I think that everybody, here's the funny part, is LinkedIn Live has been sitting there for about the past couple of months. People could apply for it, but nobody was, right? Mm-hmm. And so, or I think people were, but just not everybody, because they didn't see the value in it until they wanted to do LinkedIn Live from home. So if we would have done it a week early, you would have had it.
I know. Well, you've been telling me probably for 6 or 8 weeks that I should have been doing it. Good job listening to Aaron, Joel. But better late than never, I guess. So I'll keep waiting. I mean, I've told you I'm fine. I mean, what I've figured out with this is I can, provided I press the button, I can stream live on Facebook and YouTube, and then then I mean, it's so cool. This will crank out a link, and I could post that right to LinkedIn, and everybody could watch it there. I mean, so. Right. Are people not getting to watch it live on LinkedIn? No, they could watch it about an hour later. It's no big deal. The content's out there. And that leads me to the importance of content right now. And I do want to actually talk more about LinkedIn. But content is king, isn't it? I mean, and that doesn't mean you have to be a broadcaster. That doesn't mean you have to be a baseball guy or even a regular podcaster. I think content's always been king, but and you tell me what your take on this, but I think right now more than ever when people are looking for anything.
Right. So social media use in the past 3 weeks has gone up 50%.
Wow.
So it was already pretty high. And in the past 3 weeks, it's the way that we're trying to connect with people right now, right? So it's gone up 50%. So I would agree with you that it's more important than it's ever been. But what's going to happen is if you do a lot of content now, and then when we go back to real life, you don't do any content, it will hurt you in the long run, right? You don't want to be the person that just shows up in the emergencies.
Consistency.
Yep.
So let me ask you this, as a guy that lives in the content world, whether it's baseball or whether it's entrepreneurship, I feel like I'm posting too much. Like I feel like it's, and I think you're going to tell me there's no such thing, but what's the strategy there? Because sometimes I sit there and think, boy, people are going to get sick of this at some point. Like enough, Joel, already.
Right. I would say, well, so for LinkedIn, it's probably closer to 20%. Facebook, only about 5% of your people are seeing anything you post. Twitter, you've got a lot of Twitter followers, so probably about 10% are seeing on there. But I think if it feels too much to you, then you just even crank it up a little bit more.
Really?
Right? Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that there's too much because there's only a subset of your people. So I've got about 19,000 followers on LinkedIn. So if only 20% of those see it, that's still not 19,000, right? And so the more content that you push out, so like you see my content a lot because you like my content and you're supportive. Sure. So they always add kind of most algorithms work like this, and I'll break it down. It's not super confusing because I don't understand math like that. But essentially, like if I show your post, if I'm Facebook or LinkedIn, I show your post to 10 people and these 2 people like it and the other 8 don't, these 2 people will see something else that you post pretty recently after that. But I'm going to find another different 8 people to show it to. Now maybe one of these people. So these 3 people. So the more content you get out and the more supporters you get, it just starts to grow your network and your reach and your views and all of that.
I think that there are a few messages here. One, and it's a reminder to me, is that you could post all day long, but to assume that everyone in your network is seeing it is making a mistake. And so I think that there's still an importance right now to reach out to people in your network via email or text or whatever is appropriate based on your relationship, and let them know a little bit of what you're doing, which is what I'm trying to do right now. Not sell, just, hey, here's what's going on with you. And then some people, reply back, yeah, I've been seeing that, it's been awesome. And others are like, oh, really? Wow. And so I think that's maybe that reminder a little bit too of, don't assume because you have whatever following you have on social media that everyone's seeing it. So the algorithms, I mean, how much of a game is this for you? I mean, I know it's a game for everyone. I just don't really like to play the game.
Right.
I just want to post what I want to post and hope people see it, which is short-sighted, I know, on my part. But how much of a game is this to beat the algorithm, so to speak?
I mean, most of my job is figuring out the algorithms, right? I've been lucky for the past 4 years. We've sat mostly in LinkedIn, and LinkedIn's been about 6-7 years behind the rest of the algorithms. So a lot of what LinkedIn's doing is what Facebook was doing 6 years ago. So it's a little bit easier to figure out. But I sit in some groups of people that do what I do from all over the world, where if we think we have something figured out on algorithms, we'll share it with each other and try to figure it out. So a lot of my job gets to become, but the algorithms still work best with good content. So you can beat the algorithms all day long, but if it's not good content, it's not going to work.
The importance of hashtags, right?
Right.
I still don't get them, but I try. I try, but I don't. Yeah, it's a work in progress. So what is it? See, I like, in some ways, I like all of the social media platforms, and then in other ways, I hate them all.
Right.
I would say that I know hate's, I don't mean it like that, but there are dislikes or disinterests in all of them. From a standpoint of Twitter, and that's my big following because of baseball. For one, I feel like I not completely, but I like to try to keep that to baseball because it's 88,000, something like that, followers. And I think most of them follow me because of that. That doesn't mean I won't go out and promote something like this or other things, but I'm not on there promoting all this as much. The danger or the part I just dislike about Twitter is the rabbit hole of trolls and just news feed and negativity and all that. Instagram to me is pretty easy and harmless for the most part. It's pictures, good, bad, and different. Facebook to me, there are a lot of things I don't like about it. Again, it's less troll and more just commentary, and you start getting into family fights and losing friendships, and I just want to know what people like. I just want an update on people's kids. Like let go ahead and brag about your kids. We all want to be able to do that, but I don't find a lot of negativity with LinkedIn. I've really found in the last year or so that it's one of my favorite places to be. However, I still am not at a point where I am seeing everything I want to see, if that makes sense. But it seems like a safe place to be.
I think that's all relative. So I think if you had your 88,000 followers on LinkedIn, you would find a little bit of negativity. Not as much as Twitter. Twitter's like its own little world, right? Where people sit behind. I literally know, I know that's a big time attorney who it has no social except for a fake Twitter just to be mean about sports. Yeah. That's its own little world. But some of my LinkedIn posts will hit over 100,000, and the more views that get on it, there's always people that are going to be negative. And so I think anything with social media, you have to understand that there's going to be keyboard warriors. And I look at it as, well, they took the time to comment on my stuff, so other people saw it. They look crazy in the end, right? But then other good eyes saw it because they have people in their networks. So I think that a lot of it you just have to tune out. You've probably gotten really good at that on Twitter. Yeah. But I think it's just a numbers game. I think the more on anything people see it, there's always going to be a keyboard warrior.
Yeah, I mean, for the my strategy, at least with Twitter, I do like to look at the comments because if there's something that I could help someone with or answer a question, I will. I think that the challenge for all of this, if it's not your own personal network, is that some people just genuinely have a question and you could really help them by answering it, whether it be something strategic or business related, or whether it just be, hey, I have this question about, blah, 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 sports. And then you can answer it or kind of set them on the right path because I have access to things that maybe they don't know.
Right.
And it's a nice thing to do. But then a lot of times people want to take that as an invitation to start up a friendship or a conversation. And that's really not what it's about. I just feel like for the most part, and again, you're at a bigger level, LinkedIn still has that feeling of, no, I mean, in terms of LinkedIn, you are, and, and you've built all that, but LinkedIn to me still has that feeling of this is business.
Right.
And, you don't see a whole lot. I mean, you don't see a whole lot of like, look at my kids on there or I might post some stuff that I think could be interesting content or sports related. But like yesterday, and I know you're not, a big sports person, but
I'm getting better.
You are getting better. But Al Kaline, who's one of the great Detroit Tigers of all time, he's in the Hall of Fame. He passed away yesterday. Played well before our time growing up. I mean, he's, he was, I haven't even looked at some of the obits. I'm guessing he was probably in his 80s. The sweetest, nicest gentleman you could meet. I have a picture that I took with him in Detroit last May. And, so I posted that on, I think, Instagram story and on Facebook and on Twitter, because I just like the opportunity of saying this is one of just the sweetest, nicest men you could have met. That doesn't, to me, work as well on a LinkedIn. So I would ask you this question for anyone that's watching right now that doesn't spend as much time on social media as me or you, but understands that maybe they should be out there a little bit more, especially right now. Mm-hmm. Where should they be doing what?
So I think that depends on their goals and their business and why they should be doing more, right? So I think I have a friend, her name's Katie, and she essentially is kind of the hub for all makers in Kansas City. So she always throws these big like fairs where people can come and sell their homemade things. LinkedIn's not the spot for her, but right. Instagram's an amazing spot for her. So she's been doing a lot of Instagram lives, giving people ideas of how to get their services out there. A big thing they focused on was like the different things people can be making right now that are needed and that people are still purchasing. So her goal is Instagram, right? If she would have gone to LinkedIn, her people weren't there. For me, I'm business owners. So LinkedIn has just been a spot that I've sat in for a really long time. That is not the reason I got on LinkedIn though. Originally, because I've been like hard on LinkedIn for 10 years, started my company because Nike found me on LinkedIn. Essentially, it was because I didn't have a college degree and I decided very long time ago, I was going to tell my story on LinkedIn and start making relationships there because that's where business owners were, right? That was my goal back then. Now it's turned into I'm looking for business owners to connect with business owners. However, if I had like a product or a service that was for 65 plus, I would be spending every minute on Facebook, right? Really? Yeah. And then if I was just sports, I would be spending it on Twitter. So I think it depends on your goals and then understanding your audiences.
For someone like me, I feel like I need to be kind of across the board, but that also has to do with, okay, here's the sports, here's the podcast, here's the entrepreneurship, here's the business, here's the speaking and all that. So that's a bit of a song and dance. As we wrap things up here, and you're watching Aaron Fulk from Lily and James Creative on Rounding the Bases, live, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust, live for most of it, except for the first 7 or 8 minutes. So if you're still with us, but I mean, I think about some of the successful business people here in town, and it was interesting when I was talking to Andy Rieger on Friday. He said, the best way to get a hold of us is any of the social media. It wasn't by website. How much of that? I mean, people can go to your website and see all the story of everyone that works there, you and all of your employees, the services. How much has changed in terms of the way people are reaching out to others? In the past, the only way to find somebody was through their website. And now sometimes I wonder if people are even going to websites.
I think people are still going to websites only because I look at analytics almost every day on how much social media is taking people to websites. But I have seen an uptick in these past few weeks of people finding on social first and then going to websites. I have a good Andy Rieger story. So I actually saw their hand sanitizer. So Andy's a buddy of mine too. I saw the hand sanitizer the day they announced it on social. And so I got in my car the next morning. I was like, I'm going to go support him. I want to help. I want to help businesses, right? I hit the way that my GPS took me downtown because I never know how to drive down there. I literally thought there had to be like the biggest murder ever because the cops wouldn't talk to anybody. They had the street lined off. I called Ezzy. I was like, how do I get there the back way? I took the back way. I sat in my car for 45 minutes. I was like, this has to be a train. This is crazy. And then, but I was scooting up far, so I'm like, the train must just be moving slowly. I finally get up to a cop and she's like, you're going to have to come back tomorrow. And I'm like, come back where? Because I wasn't even close to Rieger yet. And she's like, this is all for the hand sanitizer. She's like, isn't that what you wanted? I'm like, I just really wanted to support my friend. Like, I was like, is that what that was over there where the streets are marked off? She's like, yeah, it just got real crazy. But that was all through social, right?
Yeah.
So to their point, like, I think social right now is very purpose driven too. And so, especially in those first couple weeks, and when there were like, they had an item that other people couldn't, no means that I think that many people were going to show up for hand sanitizer. I just wanted to support them. But once I was down there, I was like, this makes perfect sense. This is what everybody talks about is they can't find and they want to protect their families. And so I think social, you have to understand how it's working right now. And the social driven piece he nailed.
Yeah, no question. And so we're seeing it's so important right now. And I love what you said before too. Everybody's wanting to find ways to be connected. Right. So we'll wrap it up with this. And we've mentioned it. I've had the website up. So certainly you know how to get a hold of Aaron and Lily and James Creative. As a small business owner, as a mom, as an employer, you have a lot on your plate. And I know how hard you work every single day. And there are others out there too that are, but look, everybody's going through this. I keep saying this over and over in some form or another. Everyone is going through something right now. In the past, I've always said, everyone has stuff. Right. The most famous, I mean, I see it with athletes all the time. They might be living they're making $10 million, $20 million a year. That doesn't mean they don't have stuff. But you don't know it because it's their own business. They might be going home to something. Who knows? Right. But right now, you know, everyone has stuff, and you know, in general, at least what it might be. It's stress over, you know, your employees or not having a job or health. I mean, everybody sort of falls into that category somewhere. Yeah. So to all those small business owners out there that are somehow trying to push through this thing, what's your advice to them?
So I want to tell you a quote that I've heard twice. One of my good girlfriends lives in Toronto. She posted this on LinkedIn. And then the same day I heard it on a podcast from a preacher I like. Don't worry, I'm not getting all religious here. I've got it, but it's a good quote, right? Okay. It said, we are all going through the same storm right now, but we are not all in the same boat. Which to me was just like powerful because we are all going through some stuff, but people are going through all different levels, right? Mm-hmm. So like a business owner trying to keep their employees, that is completely different than an employee trying to figure out if they're going to have a job. Both problems, both very different problems. So I'll just speak to what I know as a business owner. I went through a myriad of emotions the first 2 weeks because, like I said earlier, how some of the business owners that I really, really have like admired how I saw them step up. There were also some business owners that I saw throw in the towel and call this the insurance check and I'll just start a business in a couple years, right? And not think through all of their employees for some of them. And luckily they weren't people I knew super well, but unfortunately I saw both ends of it. For me, it was never a question, how am I going to keep my employees? I have a full-time videographer. I have another guy who does just podcasts in person. Like I called them and I was just so transparent. And I said, we got to figure out a way to make your job a 40-hour job. And I don't know how to do that because I don't know enough about videography. Give me ideas. Let's figure it out, right? Mm-hmm. And this is all before we knew the loan. But my thought process as the business owner was, it's on me to keep them. It's not on them to keep their jobs. What can I do? And so we just started pushing out more content. I started having those conversations with them. I started asking them, hey, can you guys share this on your social too? So hopefully we can get some sales coming in. And this is all before everybody knew about the loans or anything, but it was never a thought process to lose them. Now I know not everybody's on that same place, but I think, aligning yourself. For me, it was aligning myself with other business owners that were thinking through that. So I could, Josh Levin, let's go back to him. He's a wonderful example of this. So I called him and I'm like, hey, am I making the right decision on this? And he's like, absolutely. I'll help you figure out ideas. And then we kind of did that back and forth with each other's businesses. He told me a story of there was a job that was, he's essential. And so there was a job to bid. He's the only person that showed up that day. Wow. So he got this 300 room hotel job right now because the hotel can't be open. They want to do this job right now. And he goes, what have you showed up for? And I was like, yeah, I probably need to go back to all of these, like the follow-up, the sales piece, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't know if I would have just done that for myself, because I could have let people go and been comfortable, especially people whose jobs right now are going to be a little harder to figure out what they're going to do. But it wasn't even an option. So I just think it's a thought process. And I think it's putting yourself, it's where we started, putting yourself in relationships that challenge that same thought process. It's not on my employees that a pandemic happened. It's on me that I wasn't more prepared if something went wrong to keep their job. Luckily, all this money is going to come in. Luckily, marketing's a business people are looking at. So we're going to come out on the right side of this. But I think it was a thought process thing from the beginning.
It's all going to work out. And, I don't know exactly what that's going to look like. And I'm not promising that everything is going to turn out completely rosy, but we've got to push forward. As Josh Levin was saying last week, eyes forward and keep pushing. And that's hard. I know it's easier said than done, but you're doing it. I'm proud of you for that. And, it's an evolution. It's a forever continuously evolving every single day at a very fast pace. So first and foremost, thanks for sharing the expertise and for sharing this with the 50,000 people that follow you on LinkedIn or whatever the heck it is. Yeah, I know you do. You'll keep adding to that.
April's
but thanks for the patience too. And so I think that anybody that's watching this after is just gonna, see these 45 minutes that we did, and those that were watching the first 8-9 minutes just didn't see it live. Stuff happens, but keep it up. Keep up the positivity. Keep helping and helping others. You're so good at it, and anything I could do, obviously, for you, same thing. So thank you, Erin, for taking the time. You could let the kids back in from outside now.
They're outside.
Start working on that next video or TikTok or whatever else you got going on. So LillianJamesCreative.com. You can get a hold of Erin and all of her staff there. And you can certainly, if you're not following her on LinkedIn yet, you're the only one. So do that. And I appreciate it. Thanks, Erin.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, I'm going to take Erin offline right now and see if I don't mess up any more of this. But I want to, once again, first and foremost, thank my sponsors and congratulations to the Montgomerys on the birth of their son, Rowan. You can reach them at CaseyCattleCompany.com or at Casey Cattle Company. They deliver to all 50 states and certainly to here in the Kansas City area. Veteran-owned and operated Wagyu beef. They are in Weston, so give them a call. I think we got taco night. Is it Tuesday? Taco Tuesday night here in the Goldberg house. And so we'll be having some Casey Cattle Company beef. And I could not do this without my title sponsor. And we'll be talking about SBA loans with Justin Mahoney from Enterprise Bank on Friday, a little panel discussion there. So thank you everyone for watching Rounding the Bases Live, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust. #no stopping you. We'll see you back here tomorrow for another episode. Stay safe, everyone.